The airlock hissed open and Marcus Chen stepped into the detention ring with his daughter's hand clutched in his. The corridor stretched before them, lined with transparent containment cells that glowed faint blue in the dim station light. Sarah pressed against his leg, her small fingers digging into his palm. She was 6 years old and she had just watched her mother die in the medical bay 3 decks above. "Daddy, I'm scared," she whispered. Marcus knelt beside her, forcing his voice steady, even as his chest felt like it was caving in. "I know, sweetheart, but Daddy has to check the security protocols." "Captain's orders. It'll just be a few minutes." He stood and moved down the corridor, pulling up the holographic display on his wrist terminal. His vision blurred. He blinked hard, forcing the tears back. Not now. Not in front of Sarah. The containment cells held various alien dignitaries awaiting diplomatic transport, most of them sleeping or meditating in the low light. Standard procedure required daily verification of life support systems. Standard procedure didn't account for grief that made every breath feel like drowning. Sarah wandered to the nearest cell, staring up at the creature inside. It was massive, easily 3 meters tall even in its seated position. Chitinous armor covered its body in overlapping plates of deep purple and black, forearms folded across its torso. Its head bore a crown-like crest of bone, and its eyes, 6 of them arranged in 2 rows, glowed with a soft amber light. "She's pretty," Sarah said softly. Marcus glanced over, his finger hovering over the diagnostic screen. The alien was Raxethar, a species humanity had only recently encountered. This one was designated as Queen Charel, being transported to the diplomatic summit on Kepler Station. Her file indicated she was perfectly contained, perfectly safe, perfectly... He couldn't finish the thought. The terminal slipped from his hand and clattered to the floor. Sarah looked back at him, her eyes wide and wet. "Daddy?" The sob came before he could stop it. Marcus pressed his hand to his mouth, but another one broke through, then another. His knees hit the cold metal floor, and suddenly he couldn't breathe. Couldn't think, couldn't do anything but feel the enormous weight of Anna's absence crushing down on him. 14 years of marriage, gone in a flash of reactor malfunction and medical failure. Gone while he'd been 3 decks away running a routine patrol. "Daddy, don't cry," Sarah said, her voice breaking. She ran to him and wrapped her small arms around his neck. "Please don't cry. I'm sorry," he gasped. "I'm so sorry, baby. I can't." A deep thrumming sound filled the corridor. Marcus looked up through his tears and saw Queen Cheryl standing at the front of her cell, all 6 eyes focused on them. Her mandibles clicked softly, creating a rhythm that felt almost like speech. The amber glow of her eyes intensified. Sarah turned toward the Queen, still holding Marcus's hand. "My mommy died," she said, her voice small and clear in the quiet. "Daddy's really sad. I'm sad too." The Queen's head tilted. One of her 4 arms reached toward the transparent barrier, palm open. The thrumming changed pitch, became something almost musical. "She can't help us, sweetheart," Marcus said, wiping his face with his sleeve. He tried to stand, tried to pull himself together. His legs felt like water. "But she looks sad too," Sarah said. Marcus looked at the Queen's face, at the way her mandibles had stilled, at the posture of her body. The Vraxethar were supposed to be emotionless, driven purely by logical hierarchies and territorial imperatives. That's what the briefing file said. But the way she stood there, the way her eyes tracked Sarah's movements, the soft thrumming that continued like a wordless lullaby. "Security Officer Chen, do you require assistance?" The comm crackled to life on his collar. "Your vital signs are showing elevated stress levels." "Negative. Control. Just running diagnostics. Give me 5 minutes." Acknowledged. He retrieved his terminal from the floor, hands shaking. The screen was cracked but still functional. He pulled up the life support readings for Queen Charel's cell, focusing on the numbers, because numbers made sense, numbers didn't hurt, numbers didn't leave you hollow and broken on a detention ring floor while your daughter watched. Sarah walked closer to the containment barrier. "Don't cry, Daddy. It's okay, baby." The words came out broken. "Nothing's okay." The Queen moved closer to the barrier as well, matching Sarah's position. Her hand pressed against the energy field from inside, and the thrumming grew louder. Marcus saw her mandibles move in a complex pattern, saw the way her head crest lowered slightly, saw the deliberate gentleness in every movement. Sarah put her small hand up against the barrier, mirrored to the Queen's massive palm. "Do you have a mommy?" she asked. The thrumming stopped. Queen Charel's eyes dimmed for a moment, then brightened again. She lowered herself to a crouch, bringing her face level with Sarah's. Another sound emerged from her, different from the thrumming, sharp and sad. "I think she understands," Sarah whispered. Marcus stood on unsteady legs, his training screaming at him that this was inappropriate, that he should pull Sarah back, that fraternizing with detained aliens was against protocol. But the Queen's eyes held something he recognized, something that transcended species and language, and everything the diplomatic corps thought they knew about the Vraxitar. She knew loss. The Queen's hand moved against the barrier in a slow, circular pattern. Marcus's terminal beeped. A containment alert. His heart jumped. But the readings showed stable. The Queen wasn't trying to escape. She was requesting communication access. "That's against protocol," he said aloud, to himself more than anyone else. Sarah looked back at him, tears streaming down her face. "Please, Daddy." She wants to talk. Every regulation he'd memorized said no. Every safety protocol demanded he maintain distance. Every fiber of his training as a security officer on the most sensitive diplomatic station in human space told him to grab Sarah and leave immediately. But Anna was dead, and he was drowning. And his little girl was looking at him with hope in her eyes for the first time since they'd stood in the medical bay and heard the final tone of the flatline. Marcus touched the authorization sequence on his terminal. 5 minutes, he said. Monitored communication only. No barrier drop. The translation matrix activated with a soft chime. Queen Charles' thrumming became words through the terminal speakers, her voice deep and resonant and somehow gentle despite its alien quality. "Small one, brave one, I hear your pain. You can talk? I can speak many tongues." The Queen's eyes shifted to Marcus. "Guardfather, you carry death weight. I know this burden." Marcus felt fresh tears threatening. "We just lost your life companion." I felt her passing in the energy flows. The Queen's mandibles clicked softly. 3 cycles ago, my own mate Hart fell in territorial defense. My clutch young called for him. I could not answer their sorrow. The revelation hit Marcus like a physical blow. The file said nothing about this. The diplomatic briefings had painted the Bracathars cold, calculating, interested only in resources and territory. But here was a queen, locked in a cell, carrying the same crushing grief that was tearing him apart. "How do you?" Marcus couldn't finish the question. "Survive?" Queen Charles' head crest lowered further, a gesture Marcus's gut told him was profound sadness. "I do not survive well. I breathe. I fulfill duty. But the emptiness remains. I miss my mommy so much it hurts in my chest." "Yes." The Queen's voice dropped lower. "The place where breath becomes pain. This is the price of love bond. This is the wound that does not close." Marcus sank to the floor again, but this time not from weakness. He sat cross-legged, facing the barrier, and let himself really look at the alien Queen, at the way she held herself with controlled dignity even while speaking of devastation, at the way she focused completely on Sarah, giving the child her full attention, at the scars visible on her armor, marks of a life lived through violence and loss. "They told us your species doesn't feel emotion," he said quietly. Queen Charel's laugh was like stones grinding together, dark and bitter. "They tell you many false things about many peoples. We feel. We love. We simply do not show these things to those who see us as threats or resources." She tilted her head. "But a small one's honesty demands honesty in return. And a father's tears speak truth that negotiators cannot hear. I don't want Daddy to be sad, but I don't know how to make it better." The Queen was quiet for a long moment. Then she began to thrum again, but differently, a layered sound that rose and fell in complex patterns. The translation matrix struggled to interpret it, spitting out fragments: sorrow song, remembrance melody, honor call. "Among my people," the Queen said, "when a mate heart falls, we sing their name to the stars. We tell the universe that they mattered, that they changed us, that they will not be forgotten." Her eyes found Marcus. "What was her name, Guardfather?" "Anna." The word came out as barely a whisper. "Anna Chen. She was an engineer. She kept this whole station running. She loved Sarah more than anything. She made me laugh even on the worst days. She was..." His voice broke completely. "She was everything. Then Anna Chen will be sung." Queen Charel straightened to her full height, and the thrumming became a song that resonated through the entire corridor. It was alien and strange and beautiful, a sound that seemed to vibrate in Marcus's bones, in his heart, in the hollow place where Anna used to be. Sarah listened with her mouth open, tears still falling, but her expression something like wonder. It's pretty, Daddy. Mommy would like it. The song continued for several minutes, rising and falling, complex and mournful, and somehow celebratory all at once. Marcus felt something shift in his chest, not the pain leaving, but space being made around it, room to breathe, room to remember without being crushed. When the song ended, Queen Sharel lowered herself to Sarah's level again. Small one, your mother heart lives in you. In your words, in your kindness, in the way you comfort your father guard. This is how we keep them close. But I want her here, Sarah said, her voice breaking again. I know. I want my mate heart here as well. I want many things that cannot be. The Queen's palm pressed against the barrier again. But we have each other in this moment. We have shared truth. And you have your father guard who loves you enough to break protocol and allow an enemy queen to speak comfort? Marcus stood, wiping his face. You're not an enemy. To many of your kind, I am. My people in Eras have fought over 3 systems in 2 cycles. Blood has been spilled on both sides. Queen Sharel's eyes glowed brighter. But perhaps enemies are only those who have not yet shared their grief. Officer Chen, your diagnostic check is exceeding time parameters. Control's voice crackled through again. Please confirm status. Marcus looked at his terminal. At the timestamp, at the regulations he'd just shattered, he should shut down the translation matrix. He should file a report. He should maintain the professional distance that kept diplomatic detainees in their proper category of other and threat. He looked at Sarah instead, at the way she'd stopped shaking, at the small smile that had appeared despite her tears. Diagnostics complete, he said into the comm. All systems nominal. Chen out. Queen Sharel watched him with what might have been approval. You choose your young one's healing over your regulations. I choose what Anna would have chosen, Marcus said. She always put Sarah first. Then she taught you well before she fell. The Queen's mandibles clicked in what Marcus was beginning to recognize as a smile. Small one, will you allow an alien queen to offer you something? Sarah nodded, still pressing her hands against the barrier. Among my people, when a young one loses their mother heart, the clan mothers step forward. They cannot replace, but they can shelter. They can protect. They can show that the young one is not alone. Queen Sharel's voice became very soft. I am far from my clan. I am prisoner guest in your father guard's care, but if it brings comfort, small one, you may borrow this mother heart's strength when your own feels too heavy. Sarah looked at Marcus, her eyes asking permission he didn't know if he had the right to give. But Anna's voice echoed in his memory. Let her find comfort where she can. Let her know she's loved by more than just us. Let her see that the universe is bigger and kinder than it seems. If you want to, sweetheart, Marcus said quietly. Sarah turned back to the Queen. Can I tell you about my mommy? About how she sang to me before bed and made pancakes that looked like spaceships and let me help fix the power relays, even though I was too small to really help. Podcast relays said, tell me everything. I will remember, and when I am free and return to my people, I will tell them of Anna Chen, the engineer mother who loved her daughter with a heart vast as stars. So Sarah talked. She talked about Anna's laugh and her terrible jokes and the way she always smelled like machine oil and vanilla. She talked about birthday parties and bedtime stories and the last morning they'd had together when Anna had promised to take her to see the viewing deck after her shift. Marcus listened, holding his terminal forgotten in his hand, and watched a queen from a species humanity barely understood crouch at a barrier and give his daughter something precious. Not replacement. But witnessed grief, shared pain. The knowledge that even across species, across wars, across everything that divided them, some losses spoke a universal language. Your mother heart sounds fierce and brilliant, Queen Sharel said when Sarah finally fell quiet. I would have honored to meet her. She would have liked you, Sarah said. She always said people were people, even when they looked different or came from different places. She paused, then added in a whisper, Can I really borrow you? When I'm sad? The Queen's eyes softened, all 6 of them dimming to a gentle glow. You may. Though I am detained, I am here, and when I am gone from this place, the memory of your courage will travel with me. You will have borrowed my strength, and I will have borrowed yours. Marcus's comm chirped again. Officer Chen, you're needed in Security Central. Priority briefing in 15 minutes. Reality crashed back. Marcus looked at his terminal, at the time, at the profound breach of protocol he'd just committed. He could lose his position. He could face disciplinary action. He could compromise the diplomatic mission that was supposed to happen next week. He looked at Sarah's face, at the tear tracks drying on her cheeks, at the way she stood a little straighter than she had an hour ago. "Worth it," he murmured. Queen Sharel heard him. "You are wise, Guardfather. Some rules exist to be honored. Some exist to be examined. You chose which was which." Marcus initiated the shutdown sequence on the translation matrix. "I have to go. Sarah, we need to—" "Wait." The Queen's voice stopped him. "Guardfather Marcus Chen, will you grant one more protocol breach?" Every instinct screamed that he was already in enough trouble, but he nodded. "When you brief your superiors on our people's upcoming negotiations, tell them this. Queen Sharel of the Third Clutch mourns an engineer named Anna Chen. Tell them an enemy wept with humanity's child. Tell them that walls and barriers and containment fields cannot hold back the truth, that grief is grief, love is love, and small ones need comfort regardless of the armor their comforters wear. Tell them the Vrakithar are not what they think we are." "They'll think I've been compromised," Marcus said. "You have been, by compassion, by necessity, by the understanding that your duty to your young ones supersedes your duty to fear." Queen Sharel straightened to her full height, every inch the royal commander. "I do not ask you to betray your people. I ask you to tell one truth that may prevent more death weight on both our sides." Marcus stood still for a long moment, his mind racing through implications and consequences and the shattered pieces of everything he thought he knew about the situation humanity had found itself in. And then he nodded once, sharp and certain. "I'll tell them. Then we have traded fairly, your daughter's honesty for mine. Your grief shared for mine. Your courage for mine." The Queen lowered herself one more time, looking directly at Sarah. "Small, brave one. Remember this. You are stronger than you know. Your mother heart taught you well. And when the darkness feels too heavy, you may borrow my strength until you remember your own. Thank you. No, thank you for reminding an old queen that some wars are fought with tears and truth, and these are the only battles worth winning." Marcus took Sarah's hand and turned toward the exit. They made it 3 steps before Sarah pulled free and ran back to the barrier. "Your mate Hart," she said to the Queen. "What was his name?" Queen Sharel's mandibles clicked softly. "Carthan of the Evening Sky. He fell defending our clutch young from raiders. Like your mother Hart, he chose protection over preservation. Like your mother Hart, he will not be forgotten." "I'll remember him too," Sarah promised. "And when I'm older, I'll tell people about him. About how he was brave and protected his children. Then Carthan of the Evening Sky will be twice honored, once by his people, and once by the small brave daughter of Anna Chen." Marcus couldn't speak. He just nodded at the Queen, took Sarah's hand again, and walked out of the detention ring with his daughter's grip steady in his and his mind full of impossible possibilities. The briefing room was cold and institutional, all gray surfaces and harsh lighting designed to keep people alert and uncomfortable. Marcus sat across from Commander Patricia Wells and Ambassador Lin Zhou, his hands folded on the table, his service record pulled up on the display between them. "Let me make sure I understand," Commander Wells said, her voice precise and sharp. "You activated communication protocols with a detained foreign dignitary without authorization. You allowed your minor child to interact with said dignitary. And you maintained this contact for—" she checked her notes, "18 minutes beyond your stated diagnostic time frame. Yes, ma'am, Officer Chen." Ambassador Zhou leaned forward, his expression carefully neutral. "You're aware that Queen Sharel is not simply a diplomatic guest. She's the military commander who led the assault on Arcturus Station. She's personally responsible for 63 human casualties." "I am aware." "Then perhaps you can explain why you felt it appropriate to introduce your daughter to her." "Because my daughter was grieving, sir. Because she needed something I couldn't give her. And because I made a judgment call that a mother's comfort transcends species boundaries." "That's not your call to make. With respect, ma'am, it was exactly my call to make. I'm her father, and at that moment my duty to her outweighed every protocol in the manual." "That kind of thinking gets people killed, Officer Chen. And it revealed something about the Vrakithar that your diplomatic briefings missed entirely, which is, they understand loss. Queen Sharel lost her mate 3 weeks ago. She's carrying the same weight I am, and she recognized Sarah's pain because she knows exactly what it feels like to watch someone you love die. The Vrakithar don't. Joe stopped himself. Our intelligence says they don't form emotional pair bonds. Your intelligence is wrong. Marcus pulled out his personal tablet, the one he'd used to record the interaction. He wasn't supposed to have done that either, but at this point, what was one more violation? He played the audio of Queen Shirel's song. The sound filled the briefing room, alien and haunting and unmistakably mournful. Commander Wells and Ambassador Zhou sat in silence until it ended. "What is that?" Wells asked. "A remembrance song for my wife." Queen Shirel sang Anna's name to honor her memory. She said it's what her people do when someone they love dies. Marcus closed the tablet. She also said that enemies are only those who haven't yet shared their grief. I think she's right. Zhu was quiet for a long moment. "Officer Chen, do you understand what you're suggesting? The summit next week is predicated on the assumption that the Vraxithar are territorial aggressors driven by resource acquisition. If they're actually love, loss, the need to protect their families," Marcus nodded, "then maybe we've been fighting the wrong war. Or maybe," Commander Wells said sharply, "you've been manipulated by a skilled operative who knows exactly how to exploit human emotions." "I considered that, ma'am, but she didn't ask for anything. She didn't try to negotiate. She didn't attempt escape or manipulation. She just shared her pain with a grieving child. That's not strategy. That's recognition." Ambassador Zhou stood and walked to the window overlooking the station's main concourse. "If what you're saying is true, if the Vraxitar actually experience emotional bonds, then we fundamentally misunderstood the entire conflict." "Or they've let us misunderstood," Marcus said. "Queen Shirel said they don't show emotion to those who see them as threats or resources. Maybe they've been hiding it because we never gave them reason to reveal it. A 6-year-old child did what 3 years of diplomatic negotiations couldn't," Joe murmured. "She made them see us as people. Sarah didn't know she wasn't supposed to be honest. She just told the truth. She said her mommy died and she was sad, and the Queen responded to that truth with her own." Commander Wells pulled up a file on her display. "Queen Shirel is scheduled for transport to the summit in 6 days. Standard security protocol requires minimal interaction, no communication access, and certainly no personal contact with station personnel." "I know, ma'am." "However," Wells's expression softened almost imperceptibly, "given the unique circumstances and the potential diplomatic implications, I'm prepared to authorize continued monitored communication between your family unit and the detained dignitary, under strict supervision. For research purposes, ma'am, you've opened a door, Officer Chen. I don't know if it leads somewhere useful or somewhere dangerous, but I'd be negligent not to explore it." She looked at Zhou. "With the ambassador's agreement, of course." Zhou turned from the window. "I want detailed reports. I want every conversation recorded and analyzed. And I want this kept completely confidential until we determine whether this is genuine or an extremely sophisticated manipulation." "Understood, sir." "One more thing." Joe's expression was grave. "If this is real, if the Vraxitar have been hiding their emotional capacity because they didn't trust us to respect it, then we've been committing profound diplomatic errors. We've been treating them like machines when they're people. And people who lose loved ones in wars they didn't want tend to become very, very dangerous when pushed too far." Marcus understood. "You think this might be our last chance to change the trajectory?" "I think your daughter might have done what an entire diplomatic corps couldn't. She might have shown the Vraxithar that some humans can see them as more than enemies. And Queen Shirel's response might be offering us the same opportunity." Joe sat down again. "But if we're wrong, if this is manipulation, then you've put your child in contact with a hostile military commander. So I need to know, Officer Chen, are you absolutely certain about what you experienced?" He thought about the way Queen Shirel's voice had broken when she spoke her mate's name. He thought about the specific kind of recognition that happens when two people who've lost everything acknowledge each other's pain. "I'm certain, sir. She's grieving. Just like us." Commander Wells made a note on her tablet. "Then here's what's going to happen. You'll be temporarily reassigned to diplomatic security detail for Queen Shirel. Official designation is cultural liaison. Unofficial designation is the guy whose daughter made an alien queen cry. Your duties will include supervised communication sessions, cultural observation, and reporting anything that might help us understand the Vraxithar better." "And Sarah?" "Is a minor and a civilian and absolutely cannot be formally involved in diplomatic operations," Wells said. "However, if a security officer happens to bring his daughter to work occasionally, and if that daughter happens to interact with a detained dignitary during properly supervised visits, well, sometimes these things happen on a busy station." Thank you, ma'am. Don't thank me yet. If this goes wrong, it goes very wrong. If Queen Sharelle is playing us, you're the one who opened the door. Well stood. But if she's genuine, if there's even a chance we can build understanding instead of escalating to full war, then your daughter just became the most important diplomat in human space. No pressure. Marcus left the briefing room with his head spinning and his heart hammering. He found Sarah in the station's small observation lounge, looking out at the stars with her face pressed against the window. Hey, sweetheart, you okay? Are you in trouble? Maybe a little, but it's the good kind of trouble. Is there a good kind? Marcus sat beside her, looking out at the vast darkness scattered with distant light. Sometimes. When you do something that matters more than the rules you broke. Can we see her again, the Queen? We can. They want me to talk to her more. To understand her people better. Because of what I said? Because of what you both said? Because you were honest and she was honest, and somehow that mattered more than years of official negotiations. Marcus put his arm around Sarah's shoulders. You did something important today, baby. Something that might help a lot of people. I just wanted her to know about Mommy, Sarah said softly. And I wanted to not be sad alone anymore. I know, but sometimes that's exactly what the universe needs. Someone brave enough to not be sad alone. They sat together in silence, watching stars that might hold Vraxithar worlds, might hold the families of soldiers who died fighting humans, might hold the memories of love stories that ended too soon regardless of species. Daddy? Sarah's voice was very small. Do you think Mommy would be okay with me borrowing the Queen? Marcus thought about Anna's endless capacity for seeing people as people. Her insistence that the universe was bigger and stranger and more wonderful than fear made it seem. Her fundamental belief that kindness mattered more than categories. I think, he said carefully, that Mommy would be proud of you for finding comfort where you could, and for offering comfort back. That's what she always did. That's what she taught us to do. The Queen said I was brave. You are. You're the bravest person I know. Sarah leaned against him, and they watched the stars together, until the station's artificial night cycle began, and the observation lounge dimmed to encourage people toward sleep neither of them would find easily. But tomorrow, Marcus thought, they would go back to the detention ring. They would sit at that barrier and talk to a queen from a species they were supposed to fear, and maybe, just maybe, they would help build something better than war from the broken pieces of their shared grief. Anna would have liked that plan. She always did believe the best of people, even when those people wore armor and carried weapons and came from worlds humanity had never seen. Maybe it was time the rest of humanity learned the same lesson Sarah had stumbled into through simple, devastating honesty, that mothers are mothers, that grief is grief, and that sometimes the only way forward is to let an alien queen teach you that even enemies can understand what it means to lose everything that matters. The stars turned overhead, indifferent and eternal, and Marcus Chen held his daughter close and wondered what Anna would say if she could see them now, seeking comfort from a queen whose people had killed 63 humans, offering comfort back, building bridges from the raw materials of loss. He thought she'd probably smile that smile she always wore when he worried too much about doing things the right way instead of the necessary way. She'd probably say, "See? I told you people were people, even when they're not people.